In those nascent hours of the morning, as the sun cautiously began to lift the sleepy veil from the metropolis, a period when many of us were still embroiled in that timeless battle of wills with our snooze buttons, the day had already dawned for a certain four-legged sage, or at the very least, for the neighborhood's most seasoned connoisseur of pavement narratives. We shall refer to him simply as Dog, for, as you are aware, it is not the appellation that truly signifies, but the character it represents and the daily, unavoidable tribulations, much like the morning commute, that sculpt that character. And in the background, naturally, like the unwavering soundtrack to this quotidian drama, that familiar, tranquil piano melody drifted softly, as if the universe itself were gently whispering, "Today's episode is about to begin. Please find your seats." Dog, shedding the accumulated chill of the night, with a stretch that seemed to declare, "Time to punch the clock," proceeded with the solemn gait of a factory worker, determined not to be tardy for his shift, towards the venerable water bowl, an earthen relic shaped by countless rains, at the park's edge, to perform his sacred morning ritual. However, this morning, on that well-trodden path, there was an incongruity. Hold on. Did someone rearrange the furniture and forget to send the memo? Sort of situation, unlike the usual haphazard array of leaves, typically scattered by the capricious wind. Here lay a deliberate arrangement of dry leaves and thin twigs, meticulously, or so it appeared, placed to camouflage a specific area, much like a DIY project rushed in its final stages. This was undoubtedly the latest masterpiece by Rusty, one of the young and full of bright ideas, but needs a little help with the execution, members of the neighborhood's feline contingent, who had likely spent the entire night binge-watching Top 10 Simple Traps videos on YouTube. Dog paused just before this avant-garde art installation. If canines possessed the human range of facial expressions, his would have conveyed a distinct, is this a trap, or merely a questionable choice in home decor? He lifted his nose to the air with the discerning air of a bargain hunter, inspecting an expiration date, surveyed his surroundings, then began to nudge the leaves aside with one office front paws, with the painstaking care of an archivist sorting through ancient manuscripts. And there it was, the prize from the Cracker Jack box. Beneath the leaves, a rather shallow pit materialized, not deep enough to cause grievous injury, but certainly sufficient to make a dog think, "Oh great, not another Monday morning." Stretched tautly over the pit was a filament of fishing line, almost invisible, reminiscent of a test-your-luck game at a small-town fair. One end of this line was anchored in the shadows of a nearby bush, while the other, and this was the jackpot part, led to several empty, no-name brand, probably manager's special tin cans, tied together and concealed within another bush, which Rusty was apparently utilizing as his mobile command unit. The system was a sort of doorbell mechanism, albeit more akin to an unwanted caller alert. When Dog stepped into the pit, the line would tighten, tripping the tin cans, which were, in all likelihood, the most budget-friendly security system of its era, which would then clatter, alerting Rusty as to whether his project had achieved its intended outcome: inexpensive, effective, and certainly constructed with sustainably sourced materials. Dog regarded this homemade security apparatus for a few seconds as if inspecting a second-hand vehicle before committing to a purchase. Then, completely unperturbed by the pit and the line, he ambled around it with a distinct "I've seen this rerun before" air. He positioned himself behind Rusty's control room, that is, the bush to which the tin cans were tethered. Rusty, on the other side, was undoubtedly anticipating his, and the award for outstanding innovation goes to Rusty moment. Dog, with the tip of his nose, gently but decisively nudged the thin branch from which the tin cans dangled, precariously balanced like cars in a 5 o'clock traffic jam, as if to say, "Sorry, buddy, the parking lot's full today." This minuscule intervention triggered a domino effect in Rusty's carefully constructed infrastructure. The cans, contrary to the original blueprint, tumbled directly onto Rusty with a rather loud "system error. Please try again later" announcement. Rusty, in a fleeting moment of shock, and likely with a "but the user manual didn't mention this" expression, shot out from his hiding place, adorned with leaves and an empty, probably on sale, tin can on his head. He resembled less a covert operative and more an unfortunate character from a slapstick comedy. After darting Dog a brief but "you'll be hearing from my lawyer, and I'm docking your pay" glare, he made a swift, tactical retreat from the scene. Dog, meanwhile, having concluded this little morning team-building exercise, calmly proceeded to the water bowl and took a drink. The first performance appraisal of the day had thus concluded with an unforeseen on-the-job incident. As the Adora sun ascended to its midday throne, confidently declaring the lunch hour, the sounds of the park and its environs also reached their daily zenith. The joyful cacophony of children at play, the repetitive, almost hypnotic jingle of an ice cream vendor that sounded like a radio commercial perpetually stuck on repeat, and that general, "I wonder what culinary delights or disappointments await me for lunch" bustle of life. Dog was reposing in a cool patch of shade at the base of a wall, perhaps mentally reviewing his afternoon agenda. But then that familiar, "Am I being paranoid? Or is someone actually talking about me behind my back?" sensation began to stir within him. There was no one visibly present. This was unequivocally the work of the second member of the gang, the neighborhood's stealth operative, known only as Shadow. Shadow, much like a notoriously elusive tax form, made his presence felt, but was never predictable in his timing or approach. His stratagems were aimed at inducing mental fatigue, the kind of Was that shadow always there, or is it moving? Suspense typically found in low-budget psychological thrillers. Perhaps he had placed an almost imperceptible, yet fiendishly sticky, wad of discarded chewing gum on Dog's customary shortcut. Or maybe he was simply lurking in a corner, patiently awaiting Dog's most unguarded moment, like a gotcha journalism camera crew. Dog rose, with a nonchalance that suggested he was merely humming an "Oh, the good old days," when things were simpler, tune, and meandered towards one of the park's most secluded and least foot-trafficked corners, an area enclosed by a crumbling wall, resembling a restricted access zone or a forgotten level in a video game. This area, with its dense, untamed undergrowth, was where Shadow could best deploy his natural invisibility cloak skills. Every shrub a potential ambush location. Dog plunged into this thick, mysterious vegetation and, for a moment, vanished as completely as a "the number you have dialed is no longer in service" recording. For several minutes, an absolute silence reigned, like the hushed reverence of a library's rare book room. This silence, for Shadow, probably signified, okay, this time, he's definitely walked right into it. Just at that critical juncture of anticipation, Dog emerged from the undergrowth with great composure, from the exact opposite direction he had entered, with a distinct "Pardon me, I think you have the wrong cubicle" air. It was as if he just had a brief water cooler chat inside and was now returning to his daily grind. Soon after, frustrated, muffled, and "But I rehearsed this scene all morning," meow was heard from the dense thicket Dog had just vacated. Shadow had been outmaneuvered by Dog's unexpected detour. The invisible adversary had encountered an address not found error in his own game of stealth. As the afternoon sun cast a softer, more golden hour for selfies kind of light upon the buildings, Dog found himself in one of the neighborhood's narrow cobblestone streets, the kind that whispers, "There's definitely a charming, overpriced coffee shop around here." Just then, a persistent sound began to permeate the air, a sound that could override all others, like a car alarm auditioning for a heavy metal band, but with a more personal, artisanal touch. This was the famous one-man filibuster of the Awardi's third gang member, Serenade. Serenade's tactic was a sort of sonic disruption campaign. Her unbearable meowing served as a diversionary tactic, fraying nerves like a never-ending conference call, and perhaps allowing other gang members to carry out other extracurricular activities under the cover of this acoustic smokescreen. Or maybe she just wanted to send a universal message: I have opinions, and you are all going to hear them, repeatedly. Perhaps she had a simple setup where her voice was loudest, a strategically placed pile of slippery banana peels. Just kidding. Probably just an old newspaper, designed to trip anyone fleeing in a cacophony-induced panic. Dog proceeded towards the source of this audio assault at a steady pace, as if he were so accustomed to a neighbor's never-ending home renovation project that he'd simply achieved a state of zen. The sound was emanating from the second-story window of an abandoned house, its shutters hanging at a permanently on vacation angle. Dog paused directly beneath the window. Serenade's vocal warm-ups continued from within, seemingly aiming for a new entry in the Guinness Book of World Records for sustained annoyance. Dog carefully surveyed his surroundings. Just below the window, a few loose tiles were clinging precariously to the wall, and an old, rusty drain pipe looked as if it had seen better days, possibly during the previous century. Dog picked up a long plastic stick he found on the ground, probably a discarded component from a some assembly still required piece of flat-pack furniture. Then, using the stick like a conductor's baton for a very different kind of orchestra, he carefully and rhythmically tapped the loose drain pipe, as if to say, "And now, for a little counter melody." The pipe, dislodged by this unexpected, percussive accompaniment, knocked against the loose tiles. The tiles, in a well-rehearsed if unintentional cascade, tumbled with a great clatter onto a metal awning just below the window. This sudden and decidedly attention-grabbing noise, which certainly upstaged Serenade's solo act, silenced her infamous meow as if someone had abruptly pulled the plug. A brief, "What in the blazes was that? Did someone order a demolition crew?" Silence emanated from within, followed by the sound of paws retreating in panic, as if to say, "My agent will hear about this. This is an outrage." Dog dropped the plastic stick and continued on his way, as if to say, "Thank you for your unique performance. No need for an encore." Serenade's sound trap had been neutralized by a larger and certainly less harmonious breach of the piece as the evening shadows began to stretch, carrying that distinct "is it quittin' time yet?" melancholy, yet also the almost home piece. The sun offered its final "see you bright and early for tomorrow's grind" message with a blaze of red on the horizon. Dog directed his steps towards the silent courtyard of the old library ruins, a place that was once a hub of intellectual ferment, but now, with its walls draped in ivy, resembled a Mother Nature's reclaiming her territory art installation. Here, in the fading light of dusk, which lent the place an air of mystery, like a portal to a bygone era of dial-up internet, a cat sat immobile on a fallen column, with the composure of someone pondering the eternal question of why socks disappear in the dryer. This was the fourth member of the gang, the philosopher. The philosopher's methods differed from the more direct action and loud statement traps of the others. He preferred mental chess games, playing with expectations and sophisticated setups that made one question, "Is this reality or just a very elaborate practical joke?" This time, his intellectual offering was a brand new, shiny food bowl placed provocatively in the center of the courtyard, appearing as if it were organic, non-GMO, and artisanally crafted. Inside, a serving of what appeared to be Dog's favorite premium blend of fresh-looking kibble. However, something was a little too on the nose. Around this irresistible bargain, the soil showed faint signs of disturbance, as if someone had been looking for a misplaced TV remote and then hastily tried to cover their search with strategically repositioned stones. The old saying, "There's no such thing as a free lunch unless it's a company-mandated pizza party," seemed particularly apt. Dog, rather than succumbing to the allure of this VIP dining experience, began to slowly circumnavigate the courtyard, analyzing every detail like a detective, meticulously examining an alibi. He scrutinized every stone, every mound of earth, searching for a potential hidden fees and surcharges clause. The philosopher, from a corner, watched him with great interest, probably thinking, let's see if he can pass this critical thinking exam, or if he'll just opt for multiple choice, guess C. After a while, Dog noticed a stone on the wall directly opposite the food bowl that had a slightly different color and texture, as if it were a hastily applied patch on a leaky roof. He approached it and nudged it with his nose, with the precision of a building inspector with a clipboard. The stone didn't budge, but Dog then detected an almost invisible filament, like something drawn with a very fine-tipped, invisible pen, leading upwards from the edge of the stone. Following the line with his eyes, he saw it was attached to a sturdy branch of an old tree that formed a natural awning over the courtyard, and at the end of the branch, an old paint bucket filled with pebbles was balanced precariously, like a trapeze artist having a very bad day. The food bowl, it was clear, was just clickbait, a sort of free introductory offer with strings attached. The moment Dog approached the bowl, the philosopher would likely pull this string from another strategic location, and the bucket, with the inevitable as Monday morning assistance of gravity, would descend upon Dog as an unsolicited delivery. Dog moved away from this gravity-based, overly complicated delivery system. From another corner of the courtyard, he procured a dry, sturdy-looking branch, a fortuitous gift from the wind, which looked as versatile as a roll of duct tape. Then, using this branch like a pool cue for a very tricky shot, he carefully poked at the suspicious filament from a distance a few times, as if trying to guess the Wi-Fi password. On the third try, the line tightened sufficiently. The bucket lost its delicate equilibrium, and it came crashing down with a loud, "Well, that certainly wasn't in the brochure," thud right next to the food bowl onto an empty space. The philosopher, witnessing this unexpected system malfunction and non-user initiated error, was probably thinking internally, "Do I have to call IT support for this?" Dog, after a brief "Thank you for your input. Perhaps consider a more user-friendly interface next time. Glance at the branch and the now out-of-service bucket, calmly left the courtyard without giving the food bowl a second thought or even a cursory glance. The philosopher's mental and mechanical puzzle box scenario had been successfully debugged through careful observation and the simple application of a remote assistance principle. Night, like a luxurious velvet curtain, descended upon the city, and the sky was adorned with a million tiny, glittering sequins. Under the golden glow of the streetlights, the city assumed a different, more enigmatic persona, like a beautifully shot set from an old black and white mystery film. Dog, for his final and most esteemed adversary, for what felt like the championship round of his career, headed towards the old fire escape of the tallest apartment building in the neighborhood, a structure that now stood as a nostalgic "they don't build 'em like they used to" monument. At the very apex of the roof, a formidable silhouette against the city's neon glow, sat the boss, as if to declare, "This is my office, and these are my business hours." The boss was the undisputed leader of the gang, and his methods, like the subtle and far-reaching strategies of a corporate CEO, usually involved multi-layered plans that required both keen intellect and unwavering patience, much like navigating a merger and acquisition. As Dog set foot on the first steps of the fire escape, he could anticipate that each landing would present a different challenge level and minigame. The first section featured metal plates that, when weight was applied, shifted deceitfully, probably coated with a thin layer of invisible grease. Like a caution, may cause sudden and undignified slips. Sign was conspicuously absent. Dog, testing each plate with the meticulousness of a health and safety inspector, navigated this treacherous passage and the risk of an unscheduled rapid descent by finding the most stable footing. A little higher up, almost invisible filaments were stretched diagonally between the steps, like a high-tech security grid from a heist movie. The slightest contact with these lines would trigger a Rube Goldberg-esque chain reaction, causing a series of empty glass bottles balanced precariously above to fall and announce, "Show's over, folks. Nothing more to see here." Dog, with extremely slow and calculated movements, sometimes ducking with the litheness of a yoga instructor leading an advanced class, sometimes merely widening his stride with the precision of an Olympic hurdler, bypassed this invisible fence as well. As he neared the top of the stairs, the last few steps leading to the boss's executive suite were noticeably loose, he realized, as if someone had declared, "Access beyond this point requires special clearance," and would shake the entire staircase if stepped on, potentially causing a critical loss of balance. Dog paused. He looked at this final structural integrity assessment of an obstacle. The boss, too, was watching him with that usual calm and "I've been in this business a long time, son. You can't fool me" expression. Dog, rather than trusting these wobbly ladder steps, decided to use the narrow, rusty iron supports running alongside the staircase, flush against the wall. Gripping these thin supports with his paws, with the skill of an urban rock climber, he slowly pulled himself up, completely finding a loophole in the terms and conditions, and reaching the narrow but penthouse with a view platform opposite. The boss. The boss had watched Dog's creative problem solving and thinking outside the box technique without blinking an eye. Perhaps it was the first time he had witnessed someone overcome all these layered and meticulously planned access protocols with such calm and intelligence. A long, wordless, mutual understanding between professionals. Silence passed between them. Then, the boss, very slowly, almost in a dramatic, slow motion exit from a movie kind of way, rose, walked to the other end of the roof, and disappeared into the shadows of the night, as if to say, "This isn't over. We'll be back after these messages at the end of a season finale." This was neither a defeat nor an absolute victory. Perhaps it was a show of professional respect, a silent declaration of a truce in this ongoing negotiation. Dog stood there on the roof for a while longer, looking out at the millions of city lights, all the demanding projects and high-pressure deadlines of the day now gave way to a sweet, finally off-the-clock peace when he returned to his usual tree, his safe haven and personal charging station. The night had deepened considerably, and all the incoming call alerts and urgent email notifications of the city had subsided, as if the world had collectively switched to airplane mode. Only the endless, monotonous, yet somehow natural sound machine, song of the crickets remained, along with that calm piano melody, which had now transformed into a guided meditation for deep sleep, track under the stars, and the final, mournful yet hopeful dance of the leaves in the night breeze. Dog curled up against the coolness of the earth, closed his eyes. It had been a long, eventful, quarterly report of a day. Traps, solutions, cats, and their bold, strategic initiatives. All of it was now in the past. Now was only time for rest, renewal, and recharging the batteries for tomorrow's challenges, just as it is for you, dear listener. Now is the time to close your eyes and allow this calm, this music, and the voice of this narrator to gently carry you into the deepest, most uninterrupted, and most restful sleep of the night. Tomorrow, who knows? Perhaps a new day will dawn, filled with entirely different brainstorming sessions and out-of-the-box solutions. For now, instead of resorting to the well-worn cliché of good night and may your dreams be filled with an abundance of easily catchable squirrels, I'll just say, rest peacefully, and may your tomorrow be slightly less complicated than Dog's today.